namaskar, friends, and welcome once again. As I told you in the last class, we will discuss Desirable Daughters, yet another very important novel by Bharati Mukherjee. And this novel is important for several reasons. One of the reasons is there is some kind of, let's say, uh, acceptance of Indian heritage on the part of Bharati Mukherjee. Although philosophically, what she has always believed, the diasporic subject should do or is the right thing to do when you are in diaspora, does not really change. So we have seen in the last novel, Jasmine C advocates, assimilation or an attempt at assimilation, but with a difference actually. So she does not completely believe in the melting pot where you have to forget about your culture, yourself, your identity, and then completely assimilate in America. Because we find that Jasmine, forges a new identity, of course, and Americanizes in the process of her journey, but at her own terms. It's not that she completely leaves behind her own identity, although identity is not fixed, it is always in the process of becoming and being. So in this novel, and minded friends, this novel is considered an autobiography of uh, Bharati Mukherjee, in that we find that it very closely follows her life path. And that is why this is considered the most autobiographical of the novels of Bharati Mukherjee. And in this one, we find that she finally, comes to terms with her Indian roots, which she has been downplaying in the earlier novels. But then again, she does not find a way to completely go back. She believes that let your past alter your sensibility, make you wiser, contribute to your understanding of the world, but then there is no looking back. In that, you love your past but don't live in your past. So this Desirable Daughters, which was published in, this novel, which was published in 2002, is part of her trilogy of novels, and this is the first of the trilogy of novels, the other two being The Tree Bride and Miss New India. And as I said, it is an autobiographical novel, and the story revolves around Tara and her two other elder sisters, Parvati and Padma. And it's a tale of immigrants and the attitude of three sisters and their ways of dealing with situations. In Desirable Daughters, as in Jasmine, the author revisits the interracial immigrant romance from the perspective of the Indian American woman. So concludes Bizalwan. Uh, so, if we look at this novel, it opens with Tara Banerjee Cartwright, the youngest of the three sisters from an upper caste Bengali family, and very much like Bharati Mukherjee, um, she lives in San Francisco, far from the traditions and expectations of her upbringing in India, while her two other sisters, Padma and Parvati, have taken different routes altogether. Padma is a successful and conservative businesswoman in New Jersey, while Parvati remains in India, preserving traditional family values. So, all these three sisters have taken three different paths. Tara recounts this story of her namesake Tara Lata and a legendary great aunt who became a child bride at 5 and remained a virgin widow after her husband died on their wedding day. and she later became a saint like figure known for her self sacrifice. This ancestral tale sets the stage for the exploration of modern day Tara's struggle between heritage and independence. So, Tara indulges in the process of adaptation and assimilation, like Bharati Mukherjee herself, being an autobiographical presentation of the novelist herself. Tara journeys from aloofness of expatriation to the exuberance of immigration, as Banerjee mentions her movement from Canada to the US in the introduction of her short story collection Darkness. She becomes ready to be changed like Jyoti of Mukherjee's other novel Jasmine. She would echo Jasmine's words, and I quote, I changed because I wanted to bunker oneself inside nostalgia, to seethe the heart in a bulletproof vest was to be a coward. So, this is a philosophy which works for Tara Banerjee Cartwright as well. Tara has divorced her wealthy tech entrepreneur husband Vishwapriya Bis Cartwright and now lives with her teenage son Rabi, embracing a more liberal Western lifestyle. She has shed many of her Indian traditions, which puts her at odds with her family's expectations. She lives a relatively quiet life until a mysterious young man named Chris Day appears, claiming to be her long lost nephew, Parvati's son, who was given up for adoption. So, this claim throws Tara into deep investigation into her family's past, forcing her to reevaluate everything she thought she knew about her identity and lineage, and she undertakes a journey back home to find more and more about her family and the family history. So, uh, she, like Bharati Mukherjee, has transcended all the conservative barriers that have been set by her family and has decided to lead life on her own terms, enjoying the freedom and liberty that is granted to her in the US as a US citizen. So, she parallels the novelist's life. um, as I said, a mysterious young man, Chris Day, appears one day and claims to be the son of one of her sisters, and that forces her to, look back at her family history and find out how many more such secrets are there which are uh, unknown to her. So Tara's curiosity about Chris Day's origins leads her back to India, where she confronts hidden family secrets and long buried traumas. Her investigation is also tied to a bombing at her home in San Francisco, and making the mystery more than just a family matter. It hints at terrorism, espionage, and the dangers of living between cultures. As Tara delves deeper, she uncovers conflicting narratives and falsehoods within her own family, including her father's hidden romantic life and Parvati's deception. The journey forces Tara to navigate the clash between modernity and tradition, East and West, and the many forms of female identity shaped by these forces. So, we find that the narrative is centered on these three sisters Padma, Parvati, Tara, born into privileged Bengali Brahmin family, raised amid tradition, culture, and Catholic education. They take divergent paths, as I said, each negotiating her own relationship with heritage, modernity, and identity. Padma emigrates to New Jersey, clinging to Indian customs and values while navigating life as an immigrant and working as a television anchor for an Indian program. Parvati remains in India, embodying tradition and managing the demands of an extended family and social expectations in Bombay, Tara, the protagonist and the narrator, is the most assimilated into American culture. She lives in San Francisco, is divorced from her successful Silicon Valley husband, and is raising a teenage son as a single mother. So, Tara's life is marked by her attempts to reconcile her Indian upbringing with her American present, leading to a fragmented sense of self. So, in India, people will always wonder what compels Tara to break away from such a successful husband, and that too they are living in all luxury in America. So there is no point in that. Had she been in India, she should have been satisfied with herself. But America, has transformed her. She keeps questioning about her own choices, and then she cannot just leave just like that as some non-entity, and that is the reason she leaves base and starts living on her own terms. The narrative, as I said, is propelled by a family mystery. The claims by that stranger Chris Day to be the illegitimate son of Padma, and not Padma, the illegitimate son of Parvati. And this crisis forces to confront her family's history, including the story of her ancestor Taralata, the legendary tree bride, who has been developed into another novel by the same name, Tree Bride. She is a child widow married to a tree to escape social disgrace, and that's story of the family of sacrifice. But then Tara, when she compares herself to her namesake, she finds that she doesn't want to be as sacrificing as Tara Lata, her namesake, because she finds it foolish, and her American, sensibility does not accept anything like that. She says that, like anybody else, I am also entitled to enjoy my life and live my life on my own terms, and I will not sacrifice myself just for the sake of a family name or something or a tradition. So, desirable daughters, as the title suggests, they are the daughters whose parents would be proud of and for whom every parent would crave. And these three daughters are supposed to be desirable daughters for their parents, adhering to their norms of parenthood, and upholding the tradition and culture of their family. Padma, Parvati, and Tara, in some way or the other, are bound with Indian culture, but not in almost equal measure. While Padma, despite living in America, continues to take pride in her Indian lineage and continues to be conservative in her mindset. Tara is assimilated in America more than Padma, and leads a life of independence, and American sensibility has transformed her. Parvati, on the other hand, decides to live in the country itself and uphold the family traditions. So, Tara represents the cultural hybridist, being both an American and Indian. She has gained the third space of enunciation, as Homike Bhabha would talk about. Tara's position is different from Padma, who is a hyphenated immigrant. Each one traverses her own path of immigrant life quite happily. See, it shows a protagonist who withdraws from the stereotyped life, gives up her home country, and expresses desires for a third space, oscillates between the double identity, whether to assimilate into an American culture or to live an Americanized life. So, she tries to forge some kind of balance between her Indian past and American present, and is equally uncomfortable in both the circumstances. Why? Because she does not really appreciate the patriarchal hold in the Indian society, and at the same time, she doesn't want to be commodified in the consumerist American culture. So I quote, I hope you are not doing bad things to yourself like taking Prozac and having cosmetic surgery. Please don't become that Americanized. The parents always, keep on talking to their children, keep on cautioning them against, going again against their own tradition. And this is what happens in this novel as well. The parents are worried that her sensibility will be completely changed in America, and what if she becomes American in thought and action. So, unlike earlier novels such as The Tiger's Daughter and Wife, this particular novel celebrates immigration as the process of gain rather than a case of loss and dissolution of native culture. And like Jasmine, it again does not look at migration in terms of nostalgia and always feeling a sense of out of place and pity for oneself. Rather, it talks about Tara Banerjee Cartwright, who is a bold lady and who leads life on her own terms in America. So there are so many themes that are very prominent when we look at it as a diasporic novel. First of the things is that of identity, then cultural hybridity, cultural assimilation, memory. So identity, all of us have seen that this is the most complex theme in most of the diasporic texts, because there is always a struggle for the protagonist to find an answer to the question who they are, what their real identity is, or whether they should stick to this identity or that identity. And so, in Desirable Daughters, identity is portrayed as continuous and evolving, never fixed or final. And as a first generation immigrant, Bharati Mukherjee presents the journey from India to America as a symbolic rite of passage, moving from a space shaped by patriarchal norms toward one that enables self assertion and personal agency. So, her protagonists are also shown to engage in the process of presenting a new independent self by transcending determined patriarchal parameters. So, concludes Sankar in one of his studies. He further, concludes that Mukherjee explores a complicated working out of the relationship between home, identity, and community that calls into question the notion of a coherent, historically continuous, stable identity, and works to expose the political stakes considered in such questions. So, Tara is emotionally and psychologically torn between home and host cultures, and finds it difficult to reconcile the two. I quote, when I left base after a decade of espousement, um, it was because the promise of life as an American wife was not being consummated. I wanted to drive, but where would I go? I wanted to work, but would people celebrate that Bis Chatterjee could not support his wife? So these are the questions that are really unsettling to her, as she finds that she is caught in the same vortex of patriarchal norms. Even if she is living in America, that hardly makes any difference to her. She continues to be known by the name of her husband, and continues to support him in his success, really finding no real identity of her own. So now my radar was down. She realizes that Though drawn to the gendered freedoms of American consumer culture, her Indian sensibilities are not lost but overshadowed. Caught between two worlds, she seeks liberation yet remains torn, neither fully American nor entirely Indian. But then you can just imagine somebody who looks around and finds that the society is so free, women are so liberated, so independent and self reliant, and here is another woman who is so tradition bound that she cannot really transgress it and come out of it and make a name of her own self. So, this really puts her identity in question, and she is always questioning this identity. So, although she tries to get rid of her native identity, yet she cannot completely desert it, for it flows in her blood. Her oscillation between Indian ethos and American value system thrust her into a dilemma. So she is in a perpetual state of tension, and despite her best of efforts, is not able to break free from her conservative background. She realizes that she is neither an Indian nor an American. Her outer self is American, but her inner self is Indian. A character named Sidhu says to her, "You seem so American, but you have got an obsession with India." This itself is a testimony that apparently, though she is dressed like an American, speaks like American, always tries to show that she is an American. Essentially, she is an Indian because she still continues to have obsession with India. Tara says once, and I quote, "I did not have a single close friend in San Francisco. The Atherton wives treated me as a pariah. I did not belong in India or in the Silicon Valley." So she realizes that with her changed sensibility, she cannot go back to India and really be accepted. And even in the US, also, despite trying her best, she is still treated as other by the natives in her neighborhood. So her identity is always a complex one, and she tries to forge an identity out of her past and her present and live life on her own terms. And this is what uh, Bharati Mukherjee also always tries to uphold, the negotiation of cultures. So Tara Banerjee, like her creator, negotiates between two cultures and sets her own cultural standards. There is that results in a kind of cultural hybridity, which is so typical of these diasporic subjects. So the novel also engages with the concept of cultural hybridity, a hallmark of post colonial and diasporic literature. Tara's interactions with her sisters, who embody different facets of the immigrant experience, Padma's embrace of a performative Indian identity in New York, and Parvati's adherence to traditional roles in Bombay, underscore the multiplicity of diasporic identities. The novel also shows the multicultural reality of India, and I quote, "Indian people shop collectively, but they don't live together in tight little communities. They travel from distant suburbs or from neighboring states. We are a billion people, but divided into so many thousands of millions of classifications that we have trouble behaving as monolith." So, India itself is a breeding ground of cultural hybridity, where we have so many people belonging to so many different cultures, and they always negotiate between themselves in order to form and sustain their cultural identity. Cultural assimilation is a central theme in Bharati Mukherjee's novel Desirable Daughters, who through the character of Tara, tries to again push for a visible space in America and believes that while in America, do as the Americans do, but on your own terms, because America itself is multicultural and pluralistic and provides that kind of opportunity and freedom to you, where you can really become third person, neither Indian nor American, but somebody who is bringing the disparate elements of two cultures together to form a new culture. So cultural assimilation is the central theme of Bharati Mukherjee, where characters confront the challenges of blending their Indian heritage with the realities of American life. Mukherjee deftly captures the tension between maintaining cultural roots and adapting to the new environment, as the protagonist Tara finds herself caught between the traditional expectations of her Indian upbringing and the pull of Western values. Through Tara's experiences, Mukherjee offers a nuanced portrayal of the immigrant struggle for belonging and identity in an increasingly globalized world. Past and memory, they are also very importantly taken up in this novel. The past is nice, this place is nice. It's nice to visit the past every now and then, just don't leave there. Now, this sums up the philosophy of Bharati Mukherjee. She believes that, India should be alive in her memory. She cannot completely do away with her past, and so she should every now and then visit her past. But now that she has moved away from that past, there is no point going back to that and living there. So she always asks for self transformation uh, in her characters, and believes that they have to grow, they have to transform as per the demands of the present, rather than living in a past which is lost. So, in Desirable Daughters, Tara is portrayed as perceiving immigration as a positive opportunity of self remaking by carving out an Americanized, individualistic, and independent feminine self, disregarding Indian conventions and traditions. Yet, she is shown as not being able to completely dissociate herself from her Indian roots, as the novelist also tries. In the last novel, during the discussion, I told you that Bharati Mukherjee, always tried to project herself as an American, not as Indian. But in this particular novel, she finally seems to have come to terms with her Indian roots, and realizing that she is made of her Indian roots as well, although she believes in that altered sensibility, and always sings in praise of the freedom of self that has been offered to her by the American society. So at the end of the novel, she is made to feel the need to go to India in search of these roots to define her identity. Tara's Indian origin is thus shown to condition her as much as her American experience determines who she is. So the novel underscores the difficulty of being uprooted from one's cultural origins and adapting to an unfamiliar cultural environment. No matter how strong the desire to assimilate, it suggests that one's cultural past cannot be easily erased or denied, as uh, it continues to exert influence, often clashing with new and opposing ways of life. So finally, Bharati Mukherjee, along with Tara Banerjee Cartwright, realizes that it's not easy for someone to erase one's past. So, that past is something that is inseparable, although at times it is not desirable to completely live in the past, because now that will be self defeating, and that will not allow you to user in the future. So the protagonist undertakes the journey from expatriation to immigration, from strangeness to familiarity, and from alienation to adoption and assimilation. It is a wonderful synthesis of feminist and diasporic identities in this novel, and we find that this novel, upholds concepts of hybridity and third space as propounded by Homi Bhabha, because we find that the protagonist Tara rejects arranged marriage and embraces divorce in America, and it represents herself fashioning in a hybrid cultural space, and her eventual trip back to India is not a return to purity but a recognition of her plural identity. So again, pushing for a cultural hybridity. Like Stuart Hall's cultural identity as a process, uh, as he believes that cultural identity is not fixed, it is positioned by history, power, and difference, and it is formed through becoming as much as being. In the novel, again, we find Tara's discomfort with both her sisters' rigid approaches, Padma's conservatism, and Parvati's traditionalism. It reflects Hall's point that diasporic identity is shaped by rupture and choice, not by fixed origin. So, in this novel, we find that it turns out to be a very you know powerful delineation of the diasporic sensibility, and as we find that Tara Banerjee Cartwright's identity as a diasporic woman is best understood through Homi Bhabha's concept of hybridity and third space, where new cultural meanings are produced through negotiation rather than inheritance. Although born into a traditional Bengali family, she distances herself from the expectations imposed on Indian women by divorcing her husband and adopting a more liberal lifestyle in San Francisco. However, her break from tradition is neither complete nor permanent. When a young man claiming to be her nephew appears, she is forced to confront her family's secrets and return to India to uncover the truth. This journey illustrates Bhabha's idea that identity is not rooted in a single cultural origin but emerges from the tension between cultures. So, Tara's refusal to fully assimilate into either Indian or American norms, rejecting the docility of her ancestor Tara Lata while also resisting Western materialism, places her within the third space where identity is fluid, negotiated, and plural. Similarly, Stuart Hall's theory that identity is a process of becoming rather than being is evident in her evolving self uh, conception. She is not the same person as we confront in the beginning of the novel. By the end of the novel, we find that her sensibility undergoes change. Through Tara, Mukherjee suggests that diaspora is not merely about geographic displacement but also about the internal reconfigurations of self that takes place in the spaces between cultures. So friends, you know uh, this is one of the most prominent uh, novels by Bharati Mukherjee, uh, detailing the diasporic experience and furthering her strong belief in refashioning the self and looking positive, and always grabbing hold of the opportunity that the new world offers to the immigrants, um, if they make a conscious choice to migrate to the other countries. So, friends, thank you very much. These are the references, and we'll again meet in the next class. And I intend to now talk about another very powerful and the most celebrated modern diasporic Indian writer or writer of Indian origin, Jhumpa Lahiri. So we'll talk about Jhumpa Lahiri, and we'll also discuss her take on the life of diasporic Indians. And till then, thank you very much. Thanks for your company.